Valve gear. Before commencing to strip down the engine, allow it to idle for approximately 10 minutes when warm, and then shut off without opening up the throttle. After removal of the cylinder head, examination should then be made of the inlet valves, and if any oil is getting on into the combustion chamber through the inlet valve guides, it will show up under the valve heads and in the inlet ports. Note also that if the deposit on the top of the exhaust valves is of a whitish nature, this will indicate that the engine has been operating on a lean mixture. Valve guides. Clean out the inside of the guides with a rifle barrel wire brush. Soak with a cleaning solvent and then wipe out dry with a clean rag or compressed air. Inspect for breakage, burning, cracking or wear. Valve guide clearance may be checked with the stem of a new valve, but where possible the clearance should be checked with the vehicle maker's recommendations. It is important to replace any worn guides, for it can easily be understood that oil will run down between the valve and the guide, and on the suction stroke the oil will be sucked in with the mixture. A good fit must be maintained between valve and guide. This also applies to a lesser extent to the exhaust valve, as the speeding gases during the exhaust stroke create a Venturi effect and draw oil down the guides. This is then burnt and lost with the exhaust gases. In certain types of engines, the valve guide is made a push fit into the cylinder head. These are apt to wear, resulting in the holes for the valve guides in the cylinder head becoming oval. Here, the only remedy is to make the holes true and round and fit new guides, oversize on the outside diameter. Many overhead valve engines, remember this is an old book, I'm just digressing here, right, remember it's an old book, fitted with oil seals at the top of the valve guide to prevent oil running down the stem, thinking of the A series BMC engines here, for instance. Whenever the valves are removed for decarbonising or overhaul, the seal should be replaced. Yeah, well, you get those with the gaskets and everything else you get. Certain engines use felt washers, as illustrated, and these also should be replaced when the valves are removed. Valves. Whilst the condition of the valves and seats may not necessarily affect the oil consumption, they undoubtedly affect the power of the engine. That's because it loses compression. And whilst the engine is stripped down, it's always advisable to examine the valves and seats for excessive carbon monoxide deposit build-up with a pitting or burning, which is the resultant of ineffective seating or distortion. Yeah, well, that's why we always reground the valves and the seats, by the way. At the same time, make sure that the valve stems are free in the guides and that the deposits and that a deposit is not being formed, particularly when using leaded fuels. We don't have leaded fuels anymore, do we? Valve trouble can be caused by this deposit building up on the valve stems at the top of the piston guide position. I've seen this myself. And eventually causing the valve to stick open, followed by rapid burning away of the seat. Yeah, I've seen that happen as well. Valves, right. Clean and inspect. Remove all carbon monoxide deposits. I'm fairly sure that I've shown this on by cleaning in solvent and wire brushing. I'm fairly sure I've shown it somewhere on my probably on my engine, you know, the engine project video. Have a look at that one, right? I'll just tell you, I'm not going to go on about too much. Right, remove all carbon monoxide deposit from the top and underside of the valve head and stem with a wire buffing wheel, which I've told you about many times, or by fine shot blast. Well, that doesn't work so well. I've done both. All traces of gum or shellac on the valve stems should be removed, and the stem then polished with a fine abrasive cloth. After cleaning, each valve should be placed in a valve rack or stick to maintain the same arrangement as when they were removed. That is so that you put the same valve in the same hole it came out of. This will eliminate the possibility of an air intake valve being installed in an exhaust port when reassembling the engine. Well, yeah, monkeys reassemble engines, don't they? Right? There we are. Inspect each valve for worn stem and worn or burnt head. Valves with stems that are excessively worn or valve heads which show indication of being burnt, as illustrated, should be renewed, obviously. There we are. Right. I'm not going to carry on with this now. That's a long enough video, right? We've got 2 pages and that's long enough. So we will carry on with the next segment of this chapter another day.